Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jasmine. So today I've got another Gilmore Girls build for you. In case you are new here, I make Gilmore Girls builds and characters every single Saturday, and that is because I'm currently working on a Gilmore Girls save file in The Sims. So in case you haven't checked out all of my other characters and builds on my channel yet, go and do that if you're interested in Gilmore Girls, because I've got absolutely loads of them. So today I am creating Babette's house in The Sims 4. I'm making her house because last week I made Babette and Maury and of course Cinnamon alongside Miss Patty and Gypsy. So I thought it'd be fitting to do Babette's house next, seeing as I've already introduced the character on my channel. So I absolutely love Babette. I think she is hilarious. And in case you don't know, she is the neighbour of the two main characters, Lorelai and Rory. So you can see in the corner of this build their blue house to the bottom right, and Babette and Maury live in the house behind them. So I was actually shocked to find out that Babette's house is the complete opposite direction that I thought it was in the show. For some reason I thought it was to right of their house, but it's actually behind them. So that was news to me, considering that I've been a fan of the show for so long. So I ended up having to place the house as close to the side of the lot as I could possibly get it to be, to make sure that it sort of looks like the layout of the show. I'm trying to achieve as close as a layout as I possibly can throughout all of my builds within the save file. So for example, in the town square, I've tried to sort of arrange Luke's and Miss Patty's and the gazebo and everything in relation to each other as neatly as possible. So I hope that I've achieved that, but it was quite tricky with like the shape of the house and the size of the house as well, because I have to balance like what the interior looks like and how accurate that is in relation to what you see in the show, as well as the exterior. So I did my best. I did have to sacrifice the length of the hallway basically, because in the show it's much longer, but I didn't have that much room in this lot because for some reason it's lengthways instead of longer the way I actually needed it to be. So I ended up having to make the house a little bit smaller than it actually is in the show, and basically just cut out a little bit of the hallway that you see. So hopefully that's not too much of a sacrifice, because the hallway isn't that much of an important part of the house. The house is actually really weirdly shaped as well, so I was really struggling with the exterior and how to like make it look normal and how to do the roof, for example, as well, because it's really weird. And I used a couple of reference pictures online that I think were like, they were from like tours of the set rather than sort of reference pictures from the actual show. So that way I got to see more of the build, but also it wasn't like a fully completed house, so I had to sort of improvise for a few parts of, like, for example, the roof. And they had this weird section that was like a half wall. It didn't have a roof on it. It was like a half walled section. So I ended up turning it into a balcony area. And I'm not sure if that's what it actually was. But yeah, like I said, it was just a bit weird how it was sort of half a house, but I did my best. And I also ended up using 2 episodes from the series for reference pictures as well, or for reference of the interior and exterior. And they were Cinnamon's Wake and the Donna Reed episode. Yeah, they were both really interesting episodes to rewatch, and I really enjoyed kind of going back and sort of delving into the story and reminding myself of all of the weird jokes that Gilmore Girls has to offer. But you can see here that I'm now creating like the front living area in the house, and you can see the piano obviously because, like I said in the Kaz video that I made last week, Maury is either a retired musician or he's just a musician. I don't know if they actually say, but he obviously plays the piano, and Babette loves that, and we do occasionally see her sing in the show with Maury at the piano, I believe. And this room was actually featured quite clearly in Cinnamon's Wake in that episode, where Lorelai and Rory come over to Babette's house and poor cat is lying sort of dead on the floor, and they're sort of describing how it happened and how they found the cat, and it's a little bit morbid but also quite funny at the same time. Basically Babette describes describes how, I can't remember the exact details of it, but I think she tries to like move the cat to check that it's not dead. It ends up shooting across the smooth wood floors. It's just basically one of those typical Gilmore Girls moments when they turn something completely not funny into something hilarious. And it might be one of those moments where out of context you guys are like, what the hell is this program? Why do you watch this program? But I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's just Gilmore Girls logic, you guys. And then the other episode that I based the interior on quite a lot was the Donna Reed episode. So if you haven't seen it before, I'll do my best to explain it, although like the other one, it's quite weird out of context. Basically, Rory, who's one of the main characters, she's having an argument with her boyfriend Dean because they were watching the Donna Reed show with her mum Lorelai, and they were kind of mocking it because it's like this typical 50s TV program where the wife dotes on her husband and family and basically has to do all the cooking and domestic chores, and basically the girls were taking the mickey out of it and saying how ridiculous it is, this 50s lifestyle, and how much the husband expects of her. And then Dean's like, oh, but it actually kind of sounds quite sweet and homely, you know, the idea that they all sit around at dinner at the table and there's always like pudding made and she's always, you know, taking care of the husband. It seems quite nice and cozy. And they basically just are they're quite brutal to Dean. They're like, are you kidding, right? You must be joking. It's awful. And just go on a bit of a feminist rant to him basically. And so Rory and Dean end up having a little bit of an argument about it. And then as an apology, Rory ends up dressing up in like a 50s dress, and she makes dinner for Dean and spoils him a little bit basically, but that's in the setting of Babette's house because they're currently cat sitting for Apricot, who's one of Babette's kittens at the time. Yeah, so we see a lot of the interior of the house in that episode. We see the kitchen and the dining room and everything like that I'm currently making now. So one of the things I noticed in the episode was that Babette loves her cat figurines. She's got absolutely a million cat figurines just dotted around, cluttering up every surface. So I basically tried to replicate that as much as I could, and we only have a couple in The Sims, but I utilised every single swatch that I could find of these cat figurines, and I basically filled every surface with them. And the other thing that is to note about this house that I can't really replicate in The Sims 4 is the fact that it's an absolutely tiny house in terms of its height. So the joke is that because Babette's really small and Maury's really tall, that their house is actually really, really short. Like the ceiling is really short. And so I don't know how Maury copes, but he's basically sort of walking around in this tiny house. And I think that's the joke. But yeah, when you see like Lorelai, for example, in the kitchen, her head is basically touching the ceiling. So yeah, like I said, I couldn't really replicate that in any way in The Sims, but that is just worth noting for us to enjoy as we're watching the speed build. And also, we don't ever see the upstairs of the build unless I am mistaken. Please feel free to comment down below any episodes you remember of the upstairs of the build, but I believe we don't see it at all throughout the series. So I basically just improvised for that. I did my best. I turned it into a 2-bedroom house, and I obviously had the master bedroom for Babette and Maury, and then a spare bedroom, and then I gave them an ensuite and then another sort of big bathroom upstairs, because as far as I could tell there wasn't a downstairs bathroom in the house, but I don't actually know if there is or not. So yeah, and then there was like the little balcony area that I was talking about. I gave that a little seating area and added some plants there as well. Oh, and here you can see I added some craftable objects as well from the woodworking table. So that cat figurine, and then there's a little swan figurine as well on the other side of the room, and they are both debug. So if you want to find those items, you'll need the show hidden objects sheet to find them. But yeah, they were really odd because when you place them in game, they don't necessarily turn out how they look now. So I think that's because depending on the mood of your sim, or maybe even the skill of your sim, I'm not sure how it works, but they have different variations for how they could possibly turn out. So if you place it, you can get like a really rubbish version of the object or a really good version, and I think that's because of the different variations that you can actually get in game. But that's really odd because it meant that, but it was completely random, like which one it turned out to be. So you'd like click on the object, drag it and place it, and then it would suddenly change to be like a really rubbish version of the figurine. So I had to place them a couple of times, but in case you're like struggling with the same issue, but I basically just like placed it over again until I found the right one, and then I used it within the build. So yeah, that's a really odd thing, but oh well, typical Sims. And then the other thing of note is the backyard area. We also don't see that much throughout the series, so I basically just improvised with that as well. But we do learn that Babette is obsessed with gnomes. Like, they don't say that explicitly, but she has gnomes everywhere, like in the front of her house. We see them quite a lot. There's also an episode where Jess ends up stealing one of her gnomes, and I searched the name for the gnome because I couldn't remember what it was, and it's spelt like Pierpont, but I took one look at it and I was like, how on earth do I say that? So I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I couldn't remember which episode it was in, so I didn't search to how to pronounce Pierpont. But if I'm saying it wrong, please let me know down in the comments below how to pronounce his name. Maybe it's just because I'm British and it just sounds weird with my accent, but if I was American, then it might sound more normal. But yes, Babette is absolutely obsessed with gnomes, so I managed to put gnomes everywhere in her front and back garden, and then basically added a load of trees as well, because when I was creating Lorelai and Rory's house, that because of the restrictions of the lot size and also just the neighborhood in Newcrest, I'm trying to make the whole save file in Newcrest, or as much of it as I possibly can. It doesn't actually have very sort of rural vibes, and it doesn't have very many trees or places for trees, considering how much of the lot the house took up. So I tried to make up for it by placing a load of trees in Babette's back garden, because then I felt like if you look at the girl's house from in front, you can kind of sort of see the trees blend into the house, if that makes sense. So I tried to make up for it that way. So yeah, the back garden is basically just a load of trees, but I think it turns out okay. A load of trees and a load of gnomes, and they've got like a little barbecue area on their porch, and then just a bit of landscaping that I did and seating area, but it's quite simple, nothing too special. But yeah, that is Babette's house. I hope you liked it. Please let me know down in the comments below if I got anything wrong or if I did anything particularly well. Oh, I also gave the house the gnome trait as well because I felt that was fitting. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, please like, comment and subscribe. And if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, then feel free to come back next week because like I said, create these videos every single week. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.